It's drugs. Alright, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about fertilizer, and then on top of that I'm going to be applying it to my lawn. Yo mate, what up? Welcome to another lawn tip vid. Okay, so you heard it right. We are talking about fertilizers today because look, my lawn's greened up, ready to go. If you want to know when to fertilize your lawn, make sure you check out my spring tips video, which I'll just link up above. But yeah, today I'm going to be fertilizing it. So I'm going to be using a fertilizer which I've talked to you guys about before, but I'm going to talk about a couple of different fertilizers as well, and just a couple of facts about fertilizers, just so you guys learn a bit and understand how they work. So as most of us know, there's quite a lot of different fertilizers out on the market, and sometimes it is hard to choose one that's going to work for you. Now there's heaps that I've used on this channel before and that I recommend because I'm not stuck on one product and I don't mind recommending other companies, etc. It's just whatever works for you, but there's a couple of different categories we can put them in. So we'll start off with organic fertilizers. So organic fertilizers are basically fertilizers that are either like human waste or I suppose broken down plant material is the best way to say it. Human poopies, which Malorganite, if you guys in the States know all about that sort of stuff. And also like chook poo, cow poo, all the fun poos in the world. But on top of that, organic fertilizers are great and they're going to be a great way to feed your lawn. Now another fertilizer that's out there, well, type of fertilizer is synthetic fertilizers, so chemical fertilizers. So you'll see a lot of this at your ag shops and farmers like to use them a lot because they're cheap and they produce quite a decent yield as well, so they push quite a bit of growth. Now I'm not a big fan of synthetic fertilizers. You can use them well and properly and they are cheaper, but we'll get in more in depth on that in a minute as to why I'm not a big fan of them. Now last type of fertilizer is your controlled release fertilizers or your slow release fertilizers. So these fertilizers are sort of like a mix between the synthetic and organic. It's hard to explain how they are broken down and how they work, but basically they have a coating on them which makes them slow release, so it makes the urea or the nitrogen that is in them actually be slowly released over a certain amount of time, which I'm quite a big fan of, and I actually use controlled release fertilizers, and we'll talk more about that in a minute as well. Alright, so my pick of the bunch is controlled release or slow release fertilizers, and let me tell you why. Now, I'm not a big fan of synthetic fertilizers because they really are a cheap, quick hit on your lawn. So you're only going to get about 2 weeks, if not maybe possibly 3 weeks out of your synthetic fertilizers, depending on your soil temperatures, but they are released into your soil pretty quickly and there's a higher chance of the actual nutrients leaching out of the soil more as well and actually going into waterways and causing algal blooms. You know, it is actually a real thing and it can happen. And they don't really strengthen your plant up much and don't really promote root growth and also a hardy plant. So that's the reason I'm not a big fan of them. Now, if you are going to go the synthetic fertilizer route just because you like it and because you find it's cheaper as well, it's just more affordable, it's all you can get, go ahead and do it. There's CK88's a pretty popular one I've seen people talking about all the time, and a couple of the can't remember what brand they are, but there's a couple of brands out there that you can get down at rural centres and stuff like that as well. Pretty popular. If you are getting onto those fertilizers and you want to get onto a program that includes a synthetic fertilizer, make sure you spoon feed your lawn with it. So I'd recommend you go half the application rate that it's got there and feed your lawn with that I'd say every 3 to 4 weeks, because if you have excessive nitrogen in the soil, especially with synthetic fertilizers, you can actually cause a build-up of thatch and diseases coming into your turf as well, because you're just stressing your plant out more and you're pushing too much growth on it. Because there's a lot of urea in those synthetic fertilizers as well, that likes to give your lawn a bit of a surge of growth, which looks good for that first couple of weeks, and then it dies off and then your lawn struggles because you haven't actually helped strengthen the root zone. So I actually don't mind organic fertilizers. There's nothing wrong with them. The only issue I have with them is sometimes they have a very, very low nitrogen content. They're going to be a little bit more expensive as well, and they do take a little bit longer to actually start acting because your microorganisms in the soil have to break them down first as well to get it working. So, you know, organic fertilizers right now, when my soil temps aren't crazy warm, will take a little bit longer for them to be taken up through that as well. Alrighty, so you guys have heard me talk about controlled release fertilizer before, and you know that I use it quite a lot on my lawn. So this is controlled release fertilizer, the Anderson's Nutri-DG range. Now this one here is a 12, 10.5, 6.6. I'm not sure if you can see that. I can always get it up on the screen so you can see it. But the reason I've got this fertilizer here in particular is because of the higher P in it, which is your phosphorus, because I'm actually deficient in phosphorus in my lawn here. So I've actually done a soil test, which I'll pop up on the screen here. You can see that I'm pretty low in phosphorus, so I'm trying to, you know, fix that problem with using a fertilizer that is high in phosphorus. Now, phosphorus isn't something that you'll fix instantly. It will take a season or two, if not longer, to actually bump up your P in your soil, because it just doesn't naturally go up and down that quickly. That's just the way that it is. It sort of retains in there pretty well, but it doesn't fluctuate that much, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's a controlled release fertilizer, so it has methylene urea in it, which basically is a controlled release nitrogen source. So that can last anywhere from 6 to 16 weeks, just depending on your soil temperatures and how much you're watering your lawn, how much rain you get, etc. But it can last up to 16 weeks, which is a reason why I'm a huge fan of controlled release fertilizer. Now, there is a couple of different controlled release or slow release fertilizers out there, which have different coatings on them. So they're a little bit different in how slow or quickly they're released. There's sulfur's one that, you know, you probably get about 6 to 8 weeks out of it, depending on, again, the environment and the conditions that you have. But yeah, that's the reason I'm a big fan of controlled release fertilizers, is because you can get them in a lot of different analyses. Is that even a word? They can get them in a different analysis. And, you know, they're going to feed your lawn for a long time as well. Now, organic fertilizers are going to feed your lawn for a long time as well, but they do take a little bit longer to kick into gear and to act as well. So, you know, sometimes I think it's a good idea, which is what I talk about organic sources all the time on the channel, is to use something like a controlled release or a slow release fertilizer, and then getting your organics in the soil as well to build up that soil health. So I always use humic acid, which I'm not going to go in depth on humic acid today, but humic acid alongside of a lot of these fertilizers. So I'll apply some humic acid later in the week to really help this be retained in the soil just that little bit longer as well. But yeah, controlled release fertilizers are my favorite, and now it's just a personal preference thing. I know a lot of greenkeepers and superintendents, etc., just go for that because you have the option of getting those formulas all, you know, precise to what you need, and that's the big reason I like it. Now, another reason why I use that one in particular as well is because the SGN size, which is the prill size, is quite small on it. It's only 75. Now, a lot of fertilizers you normally see about from 150 to 300, the actual prill size, which is pretty big. Now, because my lawn is short, I do need that smaller prill size. So if you find you have a smaller lawn, shorter lawn like a couch or something you're cutting really short, make sure you get yourself the smaller prill size. Otherwise it'll sit on top and potentially burn your lawn, which you do not want. Now, that's enough talking for today. Hope I didn't bombard you guys with information. Hope I didn't bombard you guys with information on fertilizers. I'm sure I didn't. I'm sure you want to learn more. If you want to know anything else, ask me a question below and I'll happily answer it for you, but I'm just not going to go too in depth today with talking about fertilizers, because we could go on for weeks and weeks, which is not a bad thing. But anyway, so now we're going to get to it and apply this stuff. So yeah, let me show you how I measure it out. Alrighty, so I was saying make sure you get the right application rates down. So this is about, I think it's 1.5 to 3 kilos, let me tell you. I better actually check it. Oh, bang on. 1.5 to 3 kilos per 100 square meters. So I've got about 350. So we're just going to go at about 369. We've got about 9 kilos per, or my whole yard, not per 100 square meters. So what I do to figure out the weight of it is I grab myself kitchen scales from the wife here. Thanks, girlfriend. And then I measure out the weight in one of these. As simple as that. Oh, that's the best way to do it. Otherwise, you know, you get the wrong rates. Don't eyeball it. Well, you can. Just don't do it. So we've got the scale here. 3.1 kilos. So we're close enough. That is at 3,059 grams. So pretty much bang on 4 litres there. So to get 9 kg, I'm just going to go each of these up to the 4 litre mark just there. So a question that I get with these things a lot of the time is, how do I calibrate one? Now, calibrating is a bit hard because you can't really put anything out when you're trying to test out how they work. You could put sand or something out, but again, the size of sand is tiny in particle compared to what you're doing. So basically what I like to do is you put whatever fertilizer spreader you have on a really, really low setting and walk over the yard once with it at that setting basically. So And that's your whole yard, not just one section of your yard. So once you've done that, you see how much fertilizer you've got left. If you're nearly done, then you sort of know you have to bump it up a little bit. If you've got heaps and heaps left, you also know you have to bump it up quite a bit. But I generally recommend you go in 2 directions as well anyway. So normally it's sort of like you've got to do it a couple of times until you get it perfect. Like, it takes quite a bit of practice. So I know that if I set mine on this fertilizer spread a little bit under 15, with this particular fertilizer, I can get over my yard twice. Pretty much bang on. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of an extra little at the end of it, but yeah. It sort of is a test and go sort of thing. I can't really give you direction on how to calibrate it properly. I know I get the question all the time. It is a little bit hard to do, but it's just test and go basically. That's the best way to do it. Now, if you have to apply a little bit more fertilizer to get you to the end, it doesn't matter if you have to put a bit more in this instance, but you want to try to have it lower just so that you've got the opportunity to adjust it further along down the track. Alright, so we're going to go spread this fertilizer now. So 2 directions, remember? And yeah, we'll spray it like that. Spray it. We're going to spread it like that. That just there. So let's get the drone up and get some shots, eh? Alright, spreading is all done. Fertilizer spreading. Don't get hit by the sprinklers. So when you finish spreading, make sure you always, and I mean always, water the fertilizer in afterwards, just to be safe. Better to be safe than sorry, especially if you're using control release fertilizers, and especially synthetic fertilizers. Organic ones you can sort of get away with, but water it anyway so that the actual nitrogen starts acting in your soil quicker. Also, with this fertilizer in particular, and I reckon with most fertilizers, don't apply it if your soil is wet. Otherwise, you can have issues with burn and stuff as well. And now I generally recommend you water your lawn, fertilize your lawn in the afternoon, so you can water it when it's not too hot in the middle of the day. Normally most fertilizers recommend you don't apply them in any degrees that are above 25 degrees Celsius. Now, all day at the moment it'd be fine for us, so it wouldn't really matter, but rule of thumb is just make sure you apply it in the afternoon. It would be easy if you could apply it in the morning, because I normally recommend watering in the morning afterwards, but who wants to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and fertilise your lawn? And you wouldn't even be able to see where you're going anyway, because, I mean, I'm puffed. Because it's so dark. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's watering in now. Keen to see it pop over the next couple of days. Alright, we'll probably wrap it up there. So thanks guys so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. A lot more stuff coming up. I'm actually doing a renovation on my neighbour's place. Well, not neighbour, he lives over in that direction somewhere. So we're going to do a renovation on his lawn soon. He's got a Kikuyu lawn, so we're going to do a scalp, possibly scarify, core, and a top dress as well. And see how he goes with that, but that'll be in the next couple of weeks, in October sometime. But yeah, so subscribe if you haven't already, because of all the new content coming up. Like this video if you enjoyed it, or you learned something new, and you have a good week. Now for all you guys that have been watching all my videos, the committed subscribers, the good guys, check out this winter grass. I pulled this out earlier, but it's starting to die. You can see it's starting to go yellow all around it. Now it's only been a week and a day or something like that, and it's starting to disappear. Now you can see it's really starting to go really light green colour, because it is starting to struggle now, which is good, which means it's starting to die, but it will need another second app, but it's good. It's starting to die off. Yes.